welcome back. Guys, it's really good to be here. I am learning a ton going through this stuff. It's really just been very insightful for me to kind of like read through each section and apply it. 'Cause I've just been living like my everyday daily life. I have really been able to understand these principles on a deeper level and also like really apply them and harmonize my life with these principles. And as I have done so, I've seen tremendous positive change in my happiness and gratefulness. Whereas I just feel like I'm in control of my life. And yeah, there are those moments where I realize like, yeah, my life is the way it is because of my choices. And so if there's a negative thing in my life, it's like, why I created that. And there is something to that, but there's also a lot of excitement because I can then choose to change that. I can respond to that in a positive manner and learn from that mistake, correct it, and move on. And that's kind of what we're talking about with the other end of the stick. And so, just a quick story about that. I ran a marathon about 2 weeks ago at the end of January, and it's like February 16th right now, 17th. I always lose track of the dates. But I ran a marathon back in the end of January, and it was hard. Don't get me wrong. I got trash afterwards, and so I had a goal to do it in under the 4 hours, which I did it, and it took a toll on not only like my physical body but also on like my mental capacity to like keep exercising, which is totally like an excuse. Like I totally could have, but the past 2 weeks I've just kind of like chosen to not exercise. And I view that right now as a mistake. And so the consequences of the mistake is that my effectiveness in my everyday life has gone down. This is kind of getting into habit 7, but exercising is super important to be able to give you like the energy that you need to do the rest of your daily activities. And so as these past 2 weeks, as I have not been doing that, I've really felt like a decrease in productivity, a decrease in effectiveness. So as I have like taken that time out of my day from exercising, I just like I would just like go on runs, and I'd just be like, holy cow, like, no, I'm done with this. I am done exercising right now. Like, I do not want to run for another 4 years, which is totally like, yeah, it's just totally an excuse and ridiculous because the last 2 weeks have been very ineffective. As I'm like realizing that now, it's interesting is that as I've looked back on that, like those 2 weeks of not exercising, the other end of the stick was a decrease in productivity, a decrease in energy levels, like a decrease in mental alertness and focus, a decrease in health, a decrease in posture, just like all these things that are just good to do, right? Like a decrease in making and keeping commitments, a decrease in time management, it's just like, or I guess my self-management, because you can't manage time, you can only manage yourself against time, but that's habit 3. But anyways, it's just like been crazy to kind of realize that, and that the natural consequences are all of those decrease in productivity, and it's been terrible. But I choose to repent. I went on a run this morning and it felt amazing. Did some core workouts, and I feel way better after doing those. So that's awesome. Which does lead me right into our next section, which is making and keeping commitments. So this is a section that is very, very powerful. Now, I want to like say something first before we dive into this. I was listening to a talk by Elder David A. Bednar called The Character of Christ. Now, this principle he taught applies to a spiritual realm, but also it applies to literally anything else. And so I'm going to use this story to illustrate a principle which also applies itself to the stuff right now. So Elder Bednar talks about this whole idea of conversion and testimony. To where like we can have a testimony of the gospel of Jesus Christ, but unless we act in accordance to that testimony or that truth that we know consistently, we're not converted unto the Lord, right? So it has to be a consistent effort in acting, not just saying words, but acting in accordance with that truth that you know. So a testimony is not enough. A testimony is just knowledge that something is true. But conversion is acting in accordance consistently over time with that truth. So I hope that principle makes sense. And so keeping commitments is literally that. It's saying, what do I know to be true? And then how am I going to act in accordance to that truth? Right? And so keeping commitments is essentially the definition of conversion to whatever principle you're trying to apply yourself to, whether that be health or sleeping or book study or talent development. It doesn't even matter. Or even selling pest control, right? You have to act in accordance with the truth that you know. And so Stephen Covey says here that keeping commitments it's the very heart of the circle of influence. It's like its ability to make and keep these commitments to ourselves and to others, right? And then like also our like integrity to those commitments. And so that's actually like the clearest and most definite way of defining someone's proactivity is how well they make and keep commitments to themselves and to others. So we've been talking about like these identifiers for how proactive someone is, like the haves and the bees. We've got listening to your language, focusing on your circle of influence versus your circle of concern, right? Like all these things we've been talking about, but making and keeping commitments is like the thing to look at if you want to realize how proactive you are. So he kind of goes into the 4 unique endowments here, which are self-awareness, conscience, imagination, and independent will. So making and keeping commitments, it's like not only the essence of like our proactivity, but also our growth. And we use these 4 unique endowments to grow. So we use self-awareness to like, I guess we use self-awareness and conscience to understand where we're going wrong, where areas of development are, where we need to apply more focus or energy or efforts, right? And then we use our unique endowments of imagination and the independent will to act on that awareness. So we use our independent will to be able to actually act, and our imagination to come up with these commitments to make and keep. So that's the cool thing, is that there are these 4 unique endowments: self-awareness, imagination, conscience, and independent will, which allow us to detect areas of improvement and then to work on them and to actually get positive results. So there are these 2 ways that we can immediately take direct control of our lives, which the first one is making a promise and then keeping it, or setting a goal and then working to achieve it. So that's actually been something that I've been really thinking about the past 2 weeks too, is this whole idea of like goal setting, and even on like a micro level. Like I definitely have big goals, but I think I should be better at, let me back up. I choose to be better at setting like weekly goals or even like daily goals, right? Because I think I kind of have like bigger goals, like audacious goals, but not like on the micro level. And so that's an area that I need to improve in. So therefore I use my self-awareness and my conscience to say, yeah, I should improve that, and it's a good thing to improve in, and I need to like harmonize myself more with like principles, right? So there's that, and so that's like just like a big sorry, I'm taking my AirPods out. I'm not sure if it connected to my laptop or not. I hope not.